This is a huge thing that we have to think about. Do we have better odds of doing this on our own with our own resources and our own capabilities versus the expertise of that co-location provider that has all of the resources, the technical expertise, the large scale facilities, and then maybe even multiple access points out to the internet? All of those things are part of the economies of scale that you have to consider versus managing this in your own on-premise data center environment. So something just to keep in mind. Hey, what's up? And welcome to Jamal Abbott Show. Here we will discuss how your business can embrace technology for growth and innovation in an efficient, secure, and seamless way. I'm your host, Jamal Abbott, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about digital infrastructure, evolution of data centers. I'm really excited about doing this episode, and this is something that's been on my mind for a while, especially as we've covered up quite a bit about the progression of technology, how that's changed. And from the previous episode where I covered the IT digital transformation, I thought it was important for us to, at least for this episode, talk a little bit about the importance of data centers and how they've changed in these last few decades. So that's the scope of this episode. We'll talk about what's changed and then how you might see yourself in this evolution, whether you're still dealing with on-premise data centers or you're looking to take advantage of the cloud computing environment that we're currently involved in. So we'll just go ahead and dive right in. As we take a look back at how far we've come, we definitely need to take a look at the first step in the data center evolution. And we're talking about the mainframe era. Now, just say spoiler alert, I did not come up in this era, but I definitely experienced some of this technology firsthand when I was working as a central office technician within the Air Force. So with that, you had specialized dedicated computers, large frames, and these things were huge. These things were taking up a lot of space, power, and cooling, and they had very few jobs to do at that time. They were dedicated on a particular task, usually for a financial institution, maybe for the government or airlines, anything like that. Now, what I can tell you about this is that this was a very expensive way of doing compute, and that was mainly because this wasn't available and accessible for the masses. So as you're looking at these specialized computers, just know that these were very reliable. They last for a long time, and in some cases, they're still operating to this day, which is quite amazing. So as time went on, we had a breakthrough with technology in the sense that the servers, the hardware, the equipment became more accessible. And with accessibility, that brings down the cost with these things. And that made it feasible for organizations to adopt computing needs to achieve their missions or their business outcomes. So now we're looking at the mainframes going away in favor of now doing this computing on premise. So now we're looking at the on-premise data center era, and we're still there. And this is not to say that this isn't any more popular. It all depends on your needs, and we'll definitely go into that a little bit further on. But this all depends on your needs and the types of applications that you're actually running. So once again, to recap, on-premise data centers, aided by the fact that hardware became more accessible, cheaper to deploy, and it's made it more feasible to run those critical applications to those organizations that need them the most in a secure, private, and protected environment on premise or within your local business or organization. Now, one thing to keep in mind with these on-premise data center environments, you have to have some way to get connectivity to the outside world, or you might need to have some way of allowing other users that are outside of your organization to have that connectivity back to the applications within your organization. So the ability to bring that network connectivity was important. And depending upon where you're at, you may or may not have readily accessible access to those circuits, to that connectivity, to that internet access to allow for the most optimal use of your data center resources as well as those applications. With that, another idea that was birthed and that became the next evolution of data centers is we're looking at co-location data centers. And what that is that you have the ability to locate your servers in a co-located environment. So you're sharing resources with other customers, but those other customers are protected in their own secure racks, which only have access by those people that are granted the access to those resources. I think it's also important to point out here too, before I forget about this, it's important to understand too that not everybody has the facilities or the resources capable of maintaining and managing their own data center environments. So if you are one of those individuals or one of those organizations that doesn't have the expertise or the know-how to manage your own data center environment, this is where a co-location place would be a good next best step. So if you're managing that data center environment on your own premises, you're responsible for the cooling, the power, all those different resources that power your servers and that infrastructure. If you're entrusting the expertise of a co-location partner, now that co-location facility actually has the responsibility of making sure that those things are operational. So once again, power, cooling, other resources that allows your infrastructure to operate in that environment. Now, the good thing for you as that business owner or operator, you don't have to worry about those things. And now you're fully focused on just the infrastructure that you need to manage for your organization. So it's a win-win for those types of environments that require just a little bit more help, or you just don't want to deal with that. And the focus is on serving your customers instead of worrying about the environmentals for your infrastructure. Some characteristics of co-location data centers include sharing resources with other customers, having access to one or several service providers, whether that be internet service providers, cloud service providers, or other providers that give you the enhanced ability to manage your IT resources. All of those resources are located in these co-location data centers. For those users that actually make that shift to co-location data centers, as I already talked about, they have access to third-party expertise for managing that facility and the associated resources that come with that. The other thing that I also think about too is this concept of increased redundancy and reliability. And just to make that in plain terms, when something bad happens to your environment, does everything go off? Do you lose access to your applications? Or do you have other backup plans and other mechanisms for your data and for your information to be available online? So typically with these co-location data centers, they have redundant power sources, or they have other fail-safe measures that allows you to have continuous access to your data and to your applications, for the most part on a 24/7 basis. Now, there's different tiers of data center providers. Some of them have just a little bit of downtime in a year, up to data center operators where there's absolutely no downtime whatsoever. Your budget and the criticality of your applications are going to dictate whether or not you're going to have the need for the utmost uptime possible or just a little bit of downtime throughout the year. But for the most part, if you're partnered with the right data center operator, they should have their operations intact and very well capable of making sure that your applications and your resources are there for you for most of the time. But it's also a good thing too to check out the service level agreements, and also just to understand what's expected when you're entering into a relationship with a co-location provider. So once again, too, increase facility redundancy, access to third-party expertise, and then the economies of scale. This is a huge thing that we have to think about. Do we have better odds of doing this on our own, with our own resources and our own capabilities, versus the expertise of that co-location provider that has all of the resources, the technical expertise, the large-scale facilities, and then maybe even multiple access points out to the internet? All of those things are part of that economies of scale that you have to consider versus managing this in your own on-premise data center environment. So something just to keep in mind. So at this point, we've touched on on-premise data centers. We talked about co-location data centers. Now it's time to talk about cloud computing. So if you're So if you are completely focused on just the delivery of your applications, of the running of your business, and you don't want to deal with anything else, then this is something that you might be interested in. And with cloud computing, you don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure, the servers, the hardware, the power, none of those things. All of those things are pretty much handled by the cloud service provider. So they're largely responsible for those tasks, and you as the end user of those services, just as long as you're making your payment and as long as you're willing to engage in that relationship with them, you'll have access to their resources without needing to manage that underlying infrastructure. So that might be a good deal if you're just of the mindset of, I just need access to those resources, and you don't necessarily want to worry about how those things are operating. I've talked about this in the previous IT digital transformation episode, but you have three main cloud service providers: AWS, Microsoft Azure, and then Google Cloud Platform. Those are the three main ones that you might have interactions with. And then all of them have the engineers, the staff to deliver those cloud resources to you. And then all you need to do is just be concerned with how much compute you need to manage and run your operation. So some of those advantages of having access to cloud computing, once again, the elimination of maintenance and server worry. So that's no longer an issue for you. You get to focus on your core business activities, and who doesn't need to focus on the core business activities? And then finally, you get the flexibility and the scalability of cloud resources. And then what that means basically is that if I need some additional computing power, it's just a matter of logging into my console, providing that credit card payment information, and then scaling up my compute resources as needed on demand. And if I don't need that resource anymore, it's just a matter of turning that off. So it all depends on what you're looking for, but if that's something that sounds interesting or something that you could use more of, then leveraging the resources of the cloud is a great option to go. One of those things that you have to be concerned about with running your applications in the cloud is just making sure that those are the right ones that need to be in that environment, or you're utilizing the right software as a service providers which are running in the public cloud or other types of clouds. You just want to make sure that you're utilizing the right set of solutions from this environment. It's very, very easy to get caught up in, going to this route of the public cloud, but not fully understanding some of the control that you're giving up, as well as the expenses that you might incur from pulling your resources from the cloud. So all those things that you have to think about and consider as you're looking to move to the cloud. All right. So we pretty much covered the evolution of data centers. This one was a short but sweet episode as far as just giving you a nice little high-level overview of that transition from mainframe computers to on-premise data centers to co-location facilities and now to cloud computing environments. So that's the evolution of data centers. There's a lot more that goes into that, and we've only scratched the surface of this. As technology progresses on, we're going to see a lot more need for one or maybe a combination of these different type of data center solutions to manage and to operate your organization. All of this is going to depend upon your needs and how this is going to best serve you and your customers or the stakeholders that are dependent upon you. With that said, that's it for this episode. I would love to hear some feedback from you. If you have it, feel free to hit me up. You can reach me at jamalabbott.com/contact, and you can drop me a note there. You can also hit me up on social media at Jamal Abbott, and would love to hear your feedback as well too on this topic and anything else that we have covered in previous episodes. So I thank you again for your time, and I will talk to you again soon.